This video is going to be a film study look at the impact that Jameson Williams has had in the last 3 weeks for the Detroit Lions as we approach the playoffs. I want to go on record to say I think he's surging. I think you can see it in the widespread usage that the Lions are utilizing with him in terms of his deployment, where he's lining up, and the routes that he runs and how they're getting him the football. Statistically, I think there's some proof here. He's got 11 catches on 16 targets in the last 3 games, but I understand if people are looking for a 7-catch, 140-yard, 2-touchdown game. I don't know that you're going to get that simply because of the number of weapons that there are all across this Lions offense, number one, and number two, the way they utilize the run game. The run-pass balance is going to be more 50-50 or 53-47 or whatever it is at this point. During those last 3 games, a couple of more stats. Jameson Williams has 169 yards receiving. That includes the 63-yard bomb in Saturday's loss to the Cowboys. He doesn't have a touchdown in this stretch. He could very easily have one. I think he's shown a couple of things beyond just the speed and ability to get behind the defense. Jukes, the ability to make people miss after the catch. Slipperiness, meaning someone's trying to tackle him and they maybe don't hit him solid or he's able to spin off of it, particularly along the sideline. I think I'll show you 3 instances of that in this video. At least one really tough physical catch over the middle, I think against the Vikings in Week 16. I think he's been fully integrated or acclimated at this point in terms of what the Lions coaches want him to do, what they want him to contribute on a weekly basis. For the year, he's got 24 catches, I think on 42 targets, so 57% catch percentage. You'd like that number to be a little higher, obviously. I think it has been recently. Like I said, last 3 weeks, 11 catches on 16 targets. So you're talking about 70%. 354 yards receiving on the year. He is averaging 15 yards per catch. Only the 1 touchdown against the Bucs, which at the time everyone hoped was going to be the jump-off point for him to start contributing consistently. This film's only going to be including basically plays from weeks 15, 16, and 17. Going to focus on 3 elements or ways that the Lions are utilizing him. And one surprising thing about Jameson Williams, the deep ball, clearly, should be a focus, and it's what they drafted him for. That'll be point number 1. Out cuts, speed outs, screens or reverses, just ways that are getting him the ball. And we found, at least I think I see, evidence that he's way tougher to tackle than you would have presumed for a guy who has so much speed, is long and kind of lanky. It almost reminds me of like you draft a great basketball player who's got a great first step. He's a great leaper, a finisher at the rim, dunker. And then you get him in camp and you find out he's got a great post-up game too, or a really, really high-level mid-range jump shot that you didn't know about. That's the comparison for me for how tough he is to tackle and how slippery he can be in along the sideline or out along the sideline. And then in cuts over the middle of the field. That tough catch against the Vikings, I think, deserves mention because it shows the mentality that Jameson Williams is bringing here. I think we all thought that he was going to contribute more consistently. Most people were hoping that this was going to be the moment, this 3rd down touchdown against the Bucs. I think I misspoke earlier. It was in Week 6. They played the Ravens in Week 7. Ball very wobbly and not in a great location from Jared Goff. Right here, I think we all saw what could be the element that he could bring that really no one else brings to this Lions offense right now in 2023. The ability to get downfield, outrun the defense, get behind the defense, beat corners and safeties. And it just didn't work out from a standpoint of him consistently having an impact on those deep balls. Now, he still showed plenty of danger in various games up through like Week 10 or Week 11. Nearly takes this one to the house, 2nd and 10 that Goff sticks in there. If he doesn't run into a teammate and then a Raiders safety, I think, happened to get a piece of him on the leg, this one could have been gone. That's the potential that he has. I don't think anyone else has that potential on this Lions team to be the type of guy that anytime they touch the football, they could take it to the house, other than Jahmyr Gibbs, clearly. Same throw, end zone angle, just so you can see the window that Goff's got. And then in a moment, we'll get to the film from the last 3 weeks. Point being, we've all known it was here, but this is perhaps the most consistent stretch weeks 15, 16, and 17 that you've gotten out of him. This one didn't count. Week 10 against the Chargers, still a brilliant effort by him. Along the sideline, I think he's going to be someone that can make things happen that most other people cannot. You have another illustration of it here. These speed outs, getting him the ball out in the flats quickly. Now, this is not a screen like the previous play. This is just an example of him making people miss. Now, he does fumble here along the sideline. Perhaps he's trying to stretch into the end zone from the 4, or maybe he's not sure that he's already got the first down because it was 2nd and 10. But I think that level of toughness is not what people expected to see from Jameson Williams, even when he was drafted. No knee injury. That's not what he was. The perception of him was to be a guy who can make people miss, spin off of tackles, and play through some really, really physical contact. Another speed out, week 15 at home against the Broncos. He's up at the top of the field. We'll let it flow through a couple of times. I don't know if you guys like when the plays show multiple times. I feel like it gives me an opportunity to explain things in a more thorough manner. And occasionally I've watched other film study videos where people are stopping the film all of the time, and I found myself thinking, I hope I don't do that. I'm sure that I have at some point. Speed out means he's not really breaking down here. He's not. There's no real pressure cut. He's not trying to sell anything else in terms of an in cut. He's just getting off vertically and then speed cutting to the outside. Goff is throwing this ball. I think this ball is a split second late getting out here to him. When you get the end zone angle, you've probably already seen it. If you're watching this long, you're a Lions fan. When you get the end zone angle, it gives you a great idea of how he can make people miss in small space. Maybe it's my own ignorance. I didn't know that this was a skill that he had like this. Regardless of whether that's a starter, a backup that's an NFL level defensive back in tight space that he made miss with maybe 2 yards to work with. And you saw instances of him making people miss against the Vikings as well. This is a unique talent that the Lions stumbled across. And I think Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, and those guys have been trying to figure out a way to utilize him properly, get him more consistent, have him run the right route. Man, I'm not that into all that. It's also a good idea to set up complementary routes, which I haven't seen a ton of at this point. Meaning, out and up. Make one cut to the outside. He would have already, put his foot in the ground to go vertical. But some people call it a double move. Really, I don't know that it's a double move. I call it a single move. I think this is a guy who has a far more skills than was on display up through weeks 6, 7, and 8, somewhere in that area. Even though they didn't make any plays against the Ravens, the danger level, the threat level of what he brought onto the field, I thought was a real thing. It's a reverse that I think Sam Laporta kind of gets in the way of. Mitchell isn't completely winning here. His guy makes the tackle. I think Laporta's got to get the heck out of the way. It only ends up being a 6-yard gain. I feel like there's adequate numbers here to seal people off. If Laporta is not in this lane at all and he just gets upfield, is he going to help pick up Mitchell's guy? Who knows? Mitchell's guy is the guy who is the player who folds inside. Were that guy blocked properly, number one? Or number two, was Laporta able to go get a piece of him? This could every time he gets the football in his hands. I understand if as a career-long Lions fan, or lifelong Lions fan, or someone that's been really rooting for Jameson Williams, if you've given up hope and you don't see it the same way I do. I'm comfortable with people interpreting it different ways. A couple of these plays in the last 3 weeks have shown me a whole lot about Jameson Williams in terms of what he's about. This one here, 2nd and 10 against the Vikings. That's a physical play. I'll show you the end zone angle here in a moment. It's an in cut from the top of the screen. They really like to have him lined up as number 2, and then St. Brown come to stack next to him, or they like to have him lined up as number 1, and then St. Brown motion outside of him, really messing with those teams that want to play split field coverages, quarters, match zones, whatever you want to call them. End zone angle, same play. So you can see the physical nature of this again. I think it gives you a good idea of what Jameson Williams is able to play through in terms of physical contact over the middle. When you combine his playmaking ability, his downfield strike ability, his ability to get behind the defense with what Jahmyr Gibbs can do every time he gets the football in his hands, they bring a different element. St. Brown, Laporta, all these other guys are great players. I think Laporta's having one of the best rookie seasons ever for a tight end. I've gone on record as saying I think St. Brown's one of the top 10 players in the league, and people don't like me saying that. He just does so many things well. Neither one of them has the game-breaking ability on one play that Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs have, which is what makes this offense so multifaceted and difficult to deal with late in 2023. Another in cut here, wide open, Week 15 against the Broncos versus kind of like a pseudo zone that the Broncos messed up, if you ask me. Goes for 14 yards. I feel like his route tree has changed over the course of the year. I'm not sure if I can necessarily identify when, but Goff was looking up here to the top side of the screen. It makes sense. That's where Laporta is, right? And then he comes back here over the middle to Williams. Now, Williams is wide open, so who would pass this completion up? My point is, his routes didn't seem to be as varied to me earlier in the year. I felt like you had a lot of sideline outs, verticals by the time they came to Baltimore and played the Ravens, and I felt like that was pretty much it. A lot more in-cuts, speed outs. I would like to see, quote, double moves utilized against those corners once he's threatened them with the out. I actually really like this route, even though I don't think the release is very good, and he's certainly not winning here. Patrick Surtain makes this difficult to the bottom side, but even though Jameson Williams doesn't accomplish this in the, quote, normal or fundamental way, he still makes himself available for the catch. Now, he lost off the snap, in my opinion. Surtain's doing a nice job jamming him up. He still is able to get separation. The ball is not Jared Goff's throw. I'm not blaming the throw because I think Williams is about a yard or yard and a half away from where Goff thinks he should be because he didn't win cleanly here. But my point is, on a rep when he didn't even win cleanly, he still got an opportunity to go beat the guy just because of his physical gifts and his burst from right here on out. It's an incomplete pass, and you may not see it the way I do, but I just see pure potential from Jameson Williams, and I do think that Goff and those guys are interested and focused on getting him the football. And I recognize that defensively in the playoffs, it's going to be a nightmare for teams to try to stop this run game if Jameson Williams keeps giving you 3-4 catches a game, the potential to make people miss and beat your DBs down the field. A lot of these quarter split field coverages that people play requires people to be man on number one. And with Jameson Williams' ability to fund for the game to end the way that it did, from the indications or things that I've heard in our Lions Discord, the injury wasn't serious. I'm glad for that because one of the thoughts that came to me Saturday was, man, the guy, made a big play like that. He seems to be surging, and then got hurt. And I was like, man, I hope he's not out for a while again, for selfish reasons because I want to see him succeed, but also for the team because when he's out there bringing that downfield element, that speed element, there's a threat that the defense has to account for on every snap. You guys let me know if you share my opinions, my glowing or I guess positive opinion of where he's going statistically, but I think the film shows it as well. That's why I picked these plays to illustrate to you. If you don't share the same opinion, let me know in the comment section why you still feel negative about his prospects for this year and beyond. I'm okay if people want to say that they think 24 catches in his second year is a low number. I agree with that. But we know that it's partially because of injury and not being utilized with 30, 35, 40 snaps a game in a manner that threatens the defense. They seem to have turned a corner. He seems to be acclimated, fully acclimated, if you ask me. And I think he just brings a level of danger for the defense to account for that makes the Lions offense really difficult to stop. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study video, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media to help this video get more reach.